Do you support Donald Trump?
I do.
You said that was socialism. Could you define socialism?
Socialism is where the government provides basic needs for those through the taxpayers, like through our taxes. And
Okay, so do you
so,
believe in Social Security?
um, to some extent, yes.
Okay, so are you a socialist?
No.
Okay, so do you support any level of socialism?
Yes, I don't think we should not have any type of welfare system,
Wait,
but I
wait,
don't
so
think
you
it
do
should
agree
be.
with some level of socialism?
Yes, but
Okay,
not
so
full, not a full, a full country's worth of like Germany, for example. I have a we had a German exchange student from Germany. I'm very close with her. The way that they run, I've talked with her closely about it. I do not support the way Germany runs their system.
okay, well, we can talk about that in a second, but Social Security is definitely not a system that I would consider socialism. Socialism is when the workers control the means of production democratically, and I do think that redistribution of wealth to be able to provide social safety nets is a liberal idea, a which is a capitalist ideology, not a socialist ideology. You
Okay,
could say
so
that they're
do you?
socialistic as they're influenced oftentimes by socialist ideas.
Yeah. So how would you define socialism?
Again, I just told you workers control the means of production democratically.
Okay, so you don't think it's not something you agree with?
I'm not a socialist now. I'm a social
Okay.
democrat. I'm a liberal.
Okay. But so you don't agree with raising taxes and making
I, I agree with taxing
and
the rich.
distributing,
Tax the rich,
but for what?
specifically to be able to fund programs that people need, like universal access to healthcare and childcare, and paid paternity and maternity leave.
So how is that not social welfare?
Well, those are social programs meant to benefit people in need, but that's not socialism because it's not having the workers control the means of production.
Give me an example, like in history, what you're saying would be socialism.
I don't think that the type of socialism that I'm referencing has existed to the degree that I'm advocating. So there have been socialists have been trying to create socialist systems, but I don't believe in any system that's been socialist other than like I guess you could point to some and you could might maybe consider them state socialists in some connotations, but I think everyone is a I think every single one historically has been a state capitalist system.
So do you completely disagree with capitalism then?
No, I'm a liberal. I'm a social democrat. I believe in like a capitalist system with social safety nets and regulations.
Okay, and so how would you gauge on what level of social safety net someone needs? And um, I guess where would that line be for you?
Yeah, it's going to be like in terms of the different policies that we support, right? What we can do as a society, like what's possible, right? What is going to be within the bounds of what we can do. So, like for example, this country can afford to do universal access to health insurance, right? In this country, right? It is the case that countries around the world do that, and they spend almost half as much per individual as we do here, and they have better average health outcomes. So we could easily do that. We could easily
Right.
do a
So
universal childcare system to be able to provide better access to childcare, right, for people in the low and middle class, particularly because childcare in this country is extremely expensive.
so do you believe that people abuse the system that we already have in place?
Yeah, I believe people like Donald Trump have abused the system. I
No, I'm
believe
talking
that
about people, not government. I'm talking about
he is a
humans.
person.
Like, well, I know, but I mean like the people, like the people,
Yeah, Donald
not
Trump
our
is one of the
leadership.
people in the country.
Right, but he's making choices for the people. I'm talking about the people who are in direct, like people under leadership,
Like
like you and I,
civilians.
taxpayers, civilians. Yes.
Okay, what about civilians? Sorry.
Do you think they abuse the system that we have in place?
Yeah, I think that rich and wealthy people abuse the system that we exist in to an extremely high extent because of the levels of tax loopholes that we have in our society and influence that they can specifically have over our political systems.
Okay, so I guess my question
And that's why
is
we need different types of regulations and antitrust laws because it is the
right.
case that
Parker, you're kind
people.
of dodging the question, though.
What?
I said you're kind of dodging the question that she's asking.
Right. Like, let me give you an
I'm more like
example.
just
Bro,
trying to
So,
what?
redirect. I'm more or less trying to redirect.
let me give you an example. So people, so because we have, welfare system and food stamps and all of those things, which I think are great things for people who are in need, there are lots of people who I see, um, who choose not to work because they don't want to lose those. They don't want to make too much money in order to not get those benefits. Where I think that's
So
abusing the
so
system.
let's talk about this then. So are there any
Okay.
people that specifically shouldn't be on the context of our system? Are there any people that engage in fraud in terms of getting access to certain things in our social safety nets? Yeah, there is fraud to
One
some
hundred
degree,
percent.
but right, it's a very small portion, and it is the case that I still want to ensure that everyone has access to
But
it who needs it. And it sounds like Republicans are okay with cutting, millions of people off that need it because there's one person on it that they want to get off that doesn't need
but
it.
but but I think Parker, like you're saying, that's a small percentage, but like where do you get that idea? Because I
Right.
feel like
Fraud rate.
it's not
Look
a
up
small
fraud rate
percentage.
for Medicaid.
Yeah, you can actually verify it.
Okay, but I'm not. That's not what we're talking about. So, like, for example, I live
You cut out.
You
in.
cut
Hello.
out.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you now.
The Native American system, like our the Cherokee Nation, they
Indigenous
run
people.
like a yes, I am one, but they run a welfare program and all of those things. Their healthcare is socialized and it is free healthcare, and I see it firsthand here where it's not as great of an idea as you think it is. Our hospitals are overrun. You can't even get in for a minor surgery. You
They're underfunded. If we look at countries around the world,
Hmm.
they have universal healthcare systems where it is the case they spend half as much per individual and have better health
Hmm.
outcomes. So as much as you
But
want
they're
to
not
acknowledge,
underfunded though, because the Cherokee Nation is not underfunded.
wait,
They
for
have millions.
the healthcare system might be specifically in that context if you aren't able to get access to the care you need and that it's overrun because you could have
No,
access to more doctors and more medical professionals. There could be more hospitals that could
right,
definitely exist.
and they
And I
have built
definitely think
a
every
massive
aspect of the health system in the context of the United States is underfunded. I believe in a universal healthcare system.
right. So, but I'm just saying what I've seen on a small level. Like, I don't think that our country could do it on a large level without it getting massively out of hand. I also don't think Canada is a great example because they also have. I have friends in Canada who will come to America for surgeries because you can't get into just a minor surgery.
That's absolutely a misnomer. I live in Washington State. I literally travel to Canada often to get medication because it's cheaper, easier, quicker. I can see doctors, all this
Well,
other stuff.
medication's different, not surgery.
But the when you talk about elective surgeries, yes, it may take more time, but actual like wait time for general issues or are relatively short, and then like emergency issues is really quick. So if you talk about like elective surgeries, yes, you can, it can take longer, but not like surgeries that you actually need. So if you're talking about getting a nose job, yes, that'll take longer. But if you're talking about like you break a bone or, you need ACL repair or whatever, like that's different.
Right.
But,
Um, and I wasn't just trying to talk about healthcare. I just was saying welfare programs in general. I think the way it gets used is people choose not to work and enter into the workforce when they're being funded completely, and they choose to stay in an impoverished lifestyle because it's free and they don't have to work. And
So how
that's
about
where I
this?
think
So
we
then,
get
is
into
your idea
addressing.
that social programs lead to more poverty?
Yes, it does,
Can you give me any
100%.
evidence of that?
I just did with where I live. It's the
No,
poorest
no,
county
that's an
in
anecdotal
Oklahoma.
experience. I'm asking like any sources overall. Like, could you give me a study that indicates that Medicaid access increases the rates of poverty, or Social Security
Well, I guess
access
it depends
increases the
on
rates
what
of
you.
poverty, or Medicare increases the rates of poverty? Because actually, historically, what we've seen with every single one of these systems is that they've radically reduced poverty in this country.
Okay, but what do you consider rich versus poverty? Because does owning things, owning land, owning homes, does that count as rich? Or that's what I'm getting at, because those countries that
So
have
when
those
we're
things,
talking
they
about
don't own
rich,
it.
when we're talking about rich, we're typically talking about people, right? In terms of like the system, are making over $400,000 in a year, right? And we're saying
Right.
we want to do a slight higher tax on income over $400,000 in a year to be able to pay for our
Right, but you
system.
can
So
be making $400 a year in California and be living paycheck to paycheck. So what I'm saying is the
if you're making $400,000 a year and living paycheck to paycheck in California, that's probably your own like quality of life specifically that you're funding. That is probably going to be the issue. To be honest, I live in Los
exactly.
Angeles, and if you make four hundred
But
thousand dollars in a year, you will be good.
Right, exactly. But what I'm saying is, what I would consider having wealth is owning things, like having it's not yeah, having equity in things, having not just what you make in a year or what you make. Like you can be making a paycheck, but if it's all going towards your life, then I don't really consider that rich. It's
what?
if it's all going towards necessities. So what I'm saying
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. If you're
is you
making
can
$400,000 a year, you're definitely not. If you're spending $400,000 in a year, you're not going to be spending all of your money on necessities. That's ridiculous.
right, but I'm saying your examples of countries that are less impoverished because of social welfare. I'm saying those people do not own things. They live, they pay rent, they
If you want to talk
They
about
have a
that,
higher.
grocery
wait.
stipends,
If
and
you
all
want to
of
talk
those
about that,
things.
sorry. I don't mean to keep going on this, but I actually read something into this earlier. If you look at the median wealth of countries, like for example Denmark, they have almost 2 times the median wealth of the United States. Right? The median wealth in the United States, I
Right,
think I saw it was one
but
hundred and
wealth would
twenty-four thousand, right? Median wealth, right? And then for Denmark, it was over 200,000.
right.
And also, just a quick call out: when you talk about those other countries that do have access to it, and they pay into like, universal healthcare, all this other stuff, and while they may have lower take home money as far as take home, like their quality of life is better because they don't deal with other issues. So those countries that are more socialized, where they're taking more money out of their pay, they actually get more back in as far as what they have access to, where we in the United States, yes, we may have a higher take home pay, but the out of pocket expenses that we incur are way more and they don't actually offset. And then our quality of life sucks as well. Whether we talk
Right,
about
but
like
they're
an
not. But
actual,
they're not free. Like that's not
What
you're
they
you're
I mean,
being allotted
what are you talking
a
about?
you're
They
being
they rank
allotted
better
an
on the Human
allowance.
Freedom Index and the Economic Freedom Index.
But you're not free to do to. You're being told, here's your grocery
Really?
stipend, here's your
That's not
healthcare
true.
stipend.
That's not true, one.
yeah, that's
Secondly, as it relates
absolutely
to
not.
this, if you want to talk about freedom, you can't say that while simultaneously supporting a guy that undermines people's First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights, Fourth
That's
Amendment
false.
rights,
That's
Fifth
false.
Amendment rights,
That's
and
all
14th
true.
Amendment rights.
Well,
Okay,
so do
I'm
you
not
then.
trolling.
So do you
Do you
then.
want me, do you want me to give you the
Because
specific
if we're
examples?
gonna
What
go
do you mean,
off
so
of,
do I?
you support someone who also disagrees, because here's where we're at is as a country we're fighting on this on both sides. So your side is also against those rights because you're against freedom of speech
How?
because of because while Biden was in office, Mark Zuckerberg was paid to silence people on Facebook.
No, he was not paid to silence people from the government. That's ridiculous.
I I
If you
think
want
he
to look
was
at
He
this,
admitted
pressured.
it. He
He was
admitted
so
it on
when you
pressured
Facebook.
say
by.
pressured, it's literally just they
Even
said to do
speech.
this. There was never like any like, oh, this is going to happen to you if you do this, which is exactly what happened
Well,
under the
why would they
FCC
do
with
that?
Jimmy
That's a
Kimmel.
freedom
I
of
also want to
speech.
wrap. I want to wrap in Santana real quick. He has his hand up.
I, just like no, go ahead and finish your point, Parker, because I have something else for her. So finish that point because I got way something else. Go ahead.
Yeah, so like Donald Trump wants he passed an executive order to put people in prison for a year for burning the American flag, which is a violation of the First Amendment. He's actively also a court and determined that he was violating people's like free speech rights relating to pro-Palestinian speech, pro-Palestinian speech in this country. Like for specific examples, Mahmoud Khalil was detained for over 104 days for without due process for saying "Free Palestine."
Donald Trump's like all his social media accounts were just
Right.
banned. They
It
just
was
silenced him.
taken off.
That
He was
has
a
nothing to
major
do.
Because he
That has
incited
nothing
an
to do with
And
the
shot
First
in the
insurrection.
Amendment.
ear.
He incited
That
an
has nothing to
insurrection
do
to the
with the
That is
Capitol.
not true.
Wait,
That
he
is not
incited.
true.
He literally incited a violent insurrection to the Capitol, and then Twitter decides to take him down because they don't want someone who incited a violent insurrection to the Capitol
Have
on
you
their
watched the
on their
video?
platform. Let me
Where-
please finish. Let me please finish. That was not the federal government. That is literally the private company choosing to do that. Private companies choosing to do something is not limiting someone's freedom of speech.
Okay, so then with Jimmy Kimmel, wasn't Disney the one that chose to do that?
Who's the FCC chair?
I don't know.
Okay, then just stop. You
Well,
don't know
why
what the
don't you
difference
His name
is.
is his name is Brendan Carr, right?
Brendan Carr directly influenced and threatened Disney and said that if they didn't take action on Kimmel, then the FCC would. That's direct influence from the actual federal government. The FCC chair literally directly threatened the company to take action towards Jimmy Kimmel. Donald Trump, the decision to actually take him off social media was done by those heads of the different companies because he tried to overthrow the country and he used their platform as a way to do it. That's the difference.
But that's false because if you actually watch the video of his speech, it's not true that he tried to overthrow the country.
Really?
Sure, I
So
got a quick
let's go
question.
through this. Hold up. Before you do, I just wanted to
No, go ahead.
make
You
sure
got it.
this is clear with her. One, he said, "Fight like hell," and to take back the country from those that stole it from you. And then he pardoned the violent rioters who beat police officers, and he called them patriots.
His speech had nothing to do with going into the Capitol and doing that. He was giving a speech. He
Fight
had
like
no
hell
idea
and
what
take
else.
back the country from those that stole it from you.
Why don't you look at the quotes that your party has said too? Then and let's do
and
that.
technically based off of
Try it.
Pam
Let's
Bondi,
do
Donald
violent
Trump's
riots.
based off of Donald Trump's current Attorney General Pam Bondi, that would be hate speech, and that would be a reason for him to go to jail.
Right, I think
Like
she's
literally,
wrong on that.
literally, Pam Bondi is saying hate speech, inciting violence is a reason to go to jail. So if Donald Trump said that, and it did incite violence because his words inspired them to go to the Capitol and do what they did, then Donald Trump should be in jail by the premise of his own Attorney General.
Right, I disagree with that because it's against the First Amendment. I disagree with what Pam Bondi said.
So you concede that yes, the Trump administration is infringing on the First Amendment, right? Because you disagree.
I can see that both sides are infringing on the First Amendment because they're so radicalized.
Give me
that they can't.
one policy from Kamala Harris that was specifically to violate people's First Amendment right.
I honestly don't know her policies.
Okay, so how can you say that she was also advocating to violate people's First Amendment rights without knowing a single one of her policies that would have done so?
Oh, I didn't say she was. I just said your parties were.
Okay, so
Do you guys think that there was pressure from the government to silence all the side effects that were happening from the COVID vaccine?
Okay, so when it comes to this, what you're not taking into account is that they were just claiming all they did was go up to Mark Zuckerberg and they said, you should take down vaccine misinformation that is leading to people getting at mass because it is the case that they don't get vaccinated.
It was actually healing
Can I please
people.
finish? Can I please finish? So what's it called? They were specifically doing so to save people's lives, right? They never said we are going to take away your ability to operate and do business if you do not follow through with this. That's a big distinction.
That is a distinction, but don't you think that by pressuring Facebook and other social media companies,
It's still an infringement.
that
No,
exactly
not an
literally
infringement.
that is
losing
still
Definitely not.
trying. They were attempting to limit freedom of speech.
People
No,
were
definitely
literally
not.
losing their lives.
No,
Like,
I think that's warranted. Yeah.
Well, people's
And-
lives
and
were being
the
saved
way- no,
too.
no,
My
the
dad's life
difference
was
is-
saved
the
by
difference is-
hydroxychloroquine.
The difference.
He was. The doctors confirmed it. He's the only one that made it out of the ICU, and it's because he was on hydroxychloroquine.
I got a violation for reproduced or unoriginal content. What do you mean? It's literally me. Hello? That's crazy. I'm sorry, but like what did you just say? Repeat what you just said. Some anti-vaccine. or not anti-vaxxers,
Yeah,
I
anti-science.
said
yeah.
my
Her dad was the miracle dad that took
hydroxychloroquine.
hydroxychloroquine and actually
Yeah,
made it.
severe asthma. Severe asthma should have. He
Wait, I'm
he fought
sorry.
them.
Can
They
you give
wanted to
me
put him
can
on
you
a
give me
vent.
any evidence that hydroxychloroquine was effective at dealing with COVID?
Yeah, it helped my dad. The
No,
doctors have no
I need like
idea.
that's an anecdote. Can I have a source? Because that's called a correlation. Correlation does not equal causation. Just because two factors are associated does not mean one caused the other.
Hey, well, all the sources were scrubbed from Facebook by Mark Zuckerberg in
Okay.
2020.
No, the sources weren't. What do you mean? You think all the sources on the internet were just on Facebook? What?
No,
Hello?
it was videos
All the sources are stored on Facebook.
of the doctors in Houston that were saying that they were seeing their patients. It was a whole group
Wait,
of
I'm sorry. Wait,
doctors
if you
that were
want to
seeing their
address this,
patients get better.
wait, if you want to address this again,
I don't
do you have
I'm
any
just on
any
my phone,
studies
so I
that
can't-
indicate this to be true? And again,
I-
correlation does not equal causation. Just because patients
Right.
got better and they also took the doesn't mean the drug helped them get better.